Right, so I've been making a little bit of progress with the bike. So this is Saturday morning, early Saturday morning, and Friday afternoon, yesterday afternoon, I fitted the front mudguard and the front wheel. Now, if the front mudguard doesn't look quite right, there's a reason for that. That's because it's a GSXR 1000 mudguard, because I couldn't get one to fit the Sprint. I couldn't find one anywhere, so I ended up buying this and just kind of fitting it in an improvised kind of way because I didn't have much choice. So I've got it attached with clamps on there, Allen bolt and a nylock nut on the other side. Then I've got bolts through here with a nylock nut as well, and then I've got wee bolts here going into the screw holes in the fork legs. Had to drill holes there and drill holes there in order to make it fit in the drill holes actually in the mudguard itself. And obviously I've got these holes left over, so it's not really ideal, but you have to, legally you have to have a mudguard on the bike to make it sort of road legal. It's not road legal to ride anything without mudguards on UK roads, so it is a necessity whether you kind of like it or not. And then I fitted the wheel as well. The wheel was quite awkward to get in. It actually needs finishing off. I've still got to put the pinch bolts in, but put the spindle through, so the wheel's basically on. Getting this speedo drive into place on its kind of tab on the fork leg was very awkward. I pushed a bit of wood under the tyre to kind of take the weight of the wheel, just lift it up that little bit and kind of like jiggle it so that I could get a hand free to kind of jiggle the speedo drive around until I got it to fit. And then I fed the speedo cable out the side here. Right, so it's now time to tighten the chain because the chain is pretty loose at this point. So I've looked at the Haynes manual and it tells you to slacken the pinch bolt, which is that. So I've done that. That's now finger tight, and you're supposed to use the Triumph supplied C-spanner to fit into these notches in the edge of the hub, and you're supposed to turn it anti-clockwise with the C-spanner, but I don't have the C-spanner. I've not got one. There's supposed to be one supplied to the bike, but I didn't get one, so I'm going to have to improvise and use something a bit different, like a hammer and a screwdriver. So I'm going to have a bash at this now and see how I get on with it. We'll see. Okay, it is turning, it is moving. Okay, so that's moved maybe half an inch. Oh, that chain is a lot tighter. That's amazing. So it's a very small amount of movement here results in a big difference in the chain tension. So that's got about an inch of play in the middle, which is about what it should be. So there we go. Just a wee tap with the hammer and the screwdriver does it. Right, so today is Saturday. It is about 4 p.m. after 4 p.m. and I've been working on the bike all day, and I've got all sorts of small things done. Where to start? So got the caliper bolts in, calipers on, got the fork pinch bolts in, still got to torque them. Everything's got to be torqued, but lots of things are kind of on the bike. You'll probably notice I've got the headlights on. They're a bit kind of unusual. I've had to kind of think outside the box to get them on. They're these kind of like little projector beam things, and they look good, but I've had to put them right out in front on these things, on these brackets, because that's all I had. It's maybe not really ideal, but it'll just have to kind of do for the moment until I figure something else out or get a fairing for the bike or whatever. So they still need to be wired in, but I've got them physically on the bike, so that's one thing. Another thing I've done is I have got the mirrors on the bike. These are mirrors that I had lying around from some previous project back in the day. Can't remember what I bought them for. I bought them for something, not sure if I ever used them. They look just about like new. Anyway, so I've screwed them on to the handlebars, and I think they'll kind of work. They're reasonably solid, and they kind of look okay. They sort of suit the bike. The gear linkage, I fitted the gear linkage this morning. I had it on previously, but I had it on upside down because the way it looked to me is it looked like it ought to be sort of like down here with this bit off the bottom, but I discovered from studying the pictures, I think it was in the Haynes manual or something, I got a picture from somewhere and realised that I had it upside down. That's why I wasn't finding neutral, because I was looking for neutral between, you know, the top of the gearbox between 4th and 5th or whatever, or 6th and 5th, whatever. So I swapped this the other way up. I put a new bolt in because the old bolt was a bit tired of getting a little bit rounded off, you know. Put that back on. This is missing a boot, but there's not a lot I can do about that. I don't know if I can get a boot. Once I got that the right way up, I've then been able to get the bike into neutral. So the bike is now in neutral, which is good. So you can now spin the wheel by hand, and it is lovely, silky smooth. It's just super smooth. When I got the bike, you could barely move it at all. You could barely move the bike for a whole lot of reasons. Partly because the tyre was flat, partly because the chain was horrendously dirty and rusty and stuck up, and I think also the rear caliper was a little bit sticky as well. So that spins really nice now, which I'm pleased with. I also pressed the chain link, did that earlier on. I've also put the chain guard on, and I've also put on this cover thing for the brake hose, which protects the brake hose from sort of landing in the chain or whatever. So that's all together. What else have I done? Put on the pillion peg hangers, which I painted with Hammerite the other day. Actually, I think I said that in the previous video, I can't remember. I've just put the expansion tank on just now. I've still got to connect up the hoses to it. I haven't done that yet, but that'll be one of the things that I'm doing tomorrow. I've put the exhaust on. So the exhaust can is on. I had to put the pillion peg hangers on before I could put that on. Sort of tightened that down, got some exhaust cement on the joint and everything, so that's that on. Fixed the ECU in with zip ties, cable ties, whatever. Ideally, I was originally going to bolt it, and then what I realised is if you put bolts through, what you end up with is a bolt head like under there. And what I thought was if you hit a really big bump, the bolt head could dig into the tyre, and obviously you don't want that. That could be catastrophic. So instead of bolting it, what I've done is I've just cable tied it, which is a bit unconventional. I think the original thing uses these like plastic push fit things, kind of like what's holding the fuse box on there. I think that's what it was originally, but I can't remember. I think a previous owner had replaced it with bolts, or it was like one of those and 3 bolts or some nonsense like that. I don't know. So anyway, it's on with zip ties. Not great, but it'll do. So then what else I've also put on the LED light. So that's installed. It came with like a number plate bracket, which I took off because I'm keeping the original, you know, the original tray with the number plate bracket built in. So I just flattened that out and then bolted it onto the back of the subframe, and then bolted this onto its own bracket kind of thing. Put it all on with lock nuts. Actually, I've not done that one with lock nuts. I probably should have done, but never mind. Also put on the seat catch, so that lock for the seat is on there. I'm not too sure that I've routed that correctly, but I'm hoping it'll go inside the seat unit all right. But it seems to be in the right place anyway. So, and then I put the number plate on as well. Got a brand new number plate. The cooling system, got to get various different kind of hoses. Like this hose, I think goes to. Pretty sure that goes into the expansion tank, but obviously it needs to be routed through the chassis somehow, and I haven't worked out exactly how I do that. So that's one thing I've got to do. I've also got to wire the lights in. The rear light I need to wire in. I was going to do that this afternoon, then I realised I don't know what colour is what. So I need to go back to the eBay listing and have a look at that and work out what wires to what on this wee not that one, on this wee block connector. So I need to study the Haynes manual, study the eBay thing, and work out how to wire it. And then the same with the headlights as well. They need to get wired in, and because I've got two, I'm going to have to like splice the two yellows into one spade connector, the two reds into another, and the two blacks into another again to get the headlights to work, I think. And then after that, it's like finish off the wiring, put the airbox on, put the tank on, put the battery on, put the battery in, get the seat unit on, seat on, and then that's pretty much it really. So I'm hoping to kind of pretty much have it together tomorrow. If not completely together, then like very nearly together. So there we go. We'll see. I'll hopefully make another video at some point tomorrow. Right, so this is Sunday afternoon. I've been working on the bike kind of most of the morning and all of yesterday. Okay, so so there's kind of good news and bad news, right? Okay, so on the mechanical front, I have kind of torqued everything. Like I've torqued all the sprocket nuts, front and rear, and the cush drive nut and the wheel nuts and all this kind of thing. So it's kind of pretty much together at this point mechanically. Okay, so the bad news is I've started on the wiring and I'm kind of running into problems with the electrics. So and it's coming on to rain now, so I'm going to have to be really quick. Okay, so this is the LED light unit that I bought off eBay. Okay, and I managed to get the brake light working, so the front and rear brake levers both activate the brake light, so that's a start. And I also managed to get the tail light to work, but kind of like intermittently, so that's a bit of a question. Okay, so then I started working on the headlights. Now these are the headlights, the projector beam headlights that do white and yellow, and I got them off eBay. They're about 15 quid or something like that, I think. Quite nice looking headlights, I really like them, but there's some problems here. So I've tested the lights, well I've tested one of them anyway, and it works when I connect it directly to the battery. So it's not an issue with the light or with the battery. There's an issue kind of with the wiring or something in the electrics. Okay, because when I plug it into the headlight block connector, which is here, so these are spade connectors that I crimped onto the ends of the wires. This is the wire from the headlight, okay, which is like built into the headlight, comes as standard kind of thing. So it's basically that. Okay, so I put spade connectors on, plugged it in here. I've got the black going into the black wire on the block connector, and I've got the yellow going into the purple. Right, that doesn't give any light when so if I connect up the battery, okay, and I turn on the ignition and I switch the lights on here, doesn't work. Okay, don't get anything, right? And it's the same whether it's dipped or main beam. Okay, so I thought, well, what I'll do is I'll just take the relay out of the equation. Okay, so this is one of the headlight relays. So what I did was took out the old relay, disconnected the old relay, and just plugged these spade connectors straight into this block connector, and then tried reconnecting the battery. And what I found was, as soon as I touched the negative, I got the yellow light came on and it lit up the inside of the garage. Okay, so that then led me to the next problem, which is these lights, right? I assumed that a projector beam, wrongly assumed that a projector beam would work kind of like a torch, you know, so like it's just a big beam of light, right? It's not. What I got was I got a big vertical pillar of light on the back wall of the garage, and obviously it's not meant to work that way. It's meant to be horizontal, you know, so that's completely useless. So the problem is I've used these mountings came with the original light, which is like a single light unit that was on the bike when I first got it. Okay, and these bolt into either side of it. Excuse me. And so how I've had to fit them with these brackets is I've fitted them, as you can see, I've bolted them through, but they're on their side. Okay, so that's why I'm getting vertical instead of horizontal. So basically I'm going to need to get some different brackets or work something out, improvise something. I don't know what exactly I'm going to do, but I'm going to have to think of something. So that's one problem that I'm going to have to solve. Okay, so then the other problem is actually how to get them to come on. So I had a spare relay just lying with my electrical bits and bobs in the garage. Okay, so I fitted that. That's a relay I think that I got brand new for some other project and I never used. So I fitted that, did the same thing again, connected up the battery, turned it on, turned on the headlights, still nothing. Okay, so I mean, because this relay's been lying around a long time, maybe that's a faulty relay. I don't know. I'm not sure, but I'm kind of thinking that there's something funny going on with the electrics on this bike. So this is going to set me back a bit. I'm going to have to try and get my head around this and work out what the deal is. And the other problem is the brakes. So when I initially put the wheel on, the calipers weren't on the fork legs, they were kind of like off to the side. Okay, so when I put the wheel on just with the spindle through and nothing else on, I could spin it totally easily. It was silky smooth. I could, you could flick it with your finger and it would spin. Okay, when I put the calipers on loosely, just with these bolts finger tight on both sides, I found that the wheel was a bit sticky. Okay, and it was like binding, the calipers were kind of binding a wee bit on the discs. So then this morning when I've been talking stuff up, I've done these up to the 40 Newton meters that the Haynes manual says, and it's binding really badly now. I can push the bike. I managed to push it out of the garage, but it's very difficult to turn the wheel by hand. The brakes are really dragging. So I think I'm either going to have to, I might need to rebuild the calipers. When I fitted the discs, I pushed the pads back inside with a screwdriver, and they went back in reasonably easily, so I thought they wouldn't need a rebuild, but maybe they do need a rebuild. I don't know, I'm not sure. The other thing I'm not sure about is these bobbins are rock solid. Now I've sprayed these with brake cleaners a couple of times, given them a bit of a soaking and tried to free them off, and I can't free them off. I've tried putting a nut and bolt through them and they won't free off. So I'm not sure if that in itself can cause brakes to stick, actually just bobbins on their own. I kind of think it must be the calipers, but I don't know. I need to find this out.